Newsfirst at 9. Headlines.
Well, hello, very good evening to you. Welcome to your primetime news bulletin live on MTVsports and Shakti TV. I'm Shaheen Jurangpati.
And I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka. First, a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
UNHRC resolution on Sri Lanka adopted. India abstains from voting. President's response to the vote in Geneva.
අපිට කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. හැබැයි 29 වෙනිදා තියෙන ඡන්දේ අපි දිනනවා කියන එකත් අපි ආයෙත් කියන්න ඕන.
Election monitors highlight the need to amend election laws. Death sentences for 10 persons convicted of murder at the Kandy High Court.
In stories in detail, the resolution on Sri Lanka at the UN Human Rights Council, sponsored by 5 nations, including the US, was adopted this evening. 23 member nations to the UNHRC voted for the resolution, while 12 voted against. 12 member nations abstained.
The human rights situation in Sri Lanka continues to deteriorate despite some areas of limited progress. The resolution highlights this Council's growing concern over persistent sexual and gender-based violence, enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, torture, violations of the rights to freedom of expression, association, and peaceful assembly, threats to judicial independence and the rule of law, as well as intimidation of and reprisals against human rights defenders, members of civil society, lawyers, and journalists. This resolution requests that the Office of the High Commissioner undertake, with assistance from relevant experts and special procedures, a comprehensive investigation into alleged serious violations and abuses of human rights and related crimes by both parties in Sri Lanka during the period covered by the report of the government's own Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission. This Council has urged the government of Sri Lanka to accept technical assistance from the OHCHR and relevant special procedures in order to address these concerns. But unfortunately, the government has not chosen to accept that assistance. The resolution continues to encourage that cooperation, and it also reiterates this Council's call on the government of Sri Lanka to implement the constructive recommendations in Sri Lanka's own LLRC report and to hold accountable those responsible for violations.
Anyone unaware of the ground situation in Sri Lanka walking into this room today could not be blamed for thinking that Sri Lanka is the most troubled place in this planet. But those aware who are here are also well aware that there is no urgent situation in Sri Lanka which warrants the interest which has now been shown. I have listened to about 15 to 20 minutes of concerns about Sri Lanka and how people want to help Sri Lanka. The question is, what is the best way to do so? The draft resolution before this Council is, if adopted, will not only constitute a serious breach of international law, but create a dangerous precedent in the conduct of international relations within the established global order of sovereign states, and could pose a grave threat to the sovereignty and independence of member states of the United Nations, which is enshrined in the Charter. By a deliberate failure to specify a time period in Operative Para 10B, the draft resolution may confine its ambit between 2002 and 2009 by adopting a narrower interpretation of the period covered by the LLRC, thus completely excluding the atrocities and violations of international human rights and international humanitarian law committed by the LTTE prior to 2002. Is this the intention of the sponsors of this resolution? It is in this context that we are disappointed to observe that a key imperative driving this resolution is not genuine concern for the welfare of the Sri Lankan people, but electoral compulsions of some states at the behest of certain extreme elements with links to the LTTE. Such biases and extreme ideologies ignore the ground realities, the legitimate aspirations of the Sri Lankan people, and trivialize the price paid by all Sri Lankans to defeat a 30-year brutal terrorist conflict and consolidate peace. Before this Council takes a decision on the draft resolution, I wish to appeal to the conscience of the Member States. Sri Lanka has embarked on a painstaking process of reconciliation. Don't put spokes in the wheel. Irrespective of the outcome of today's decision, I wish to categorically state that the democratically elected government of Sri Lanka, and indeed all peace-loving people in my country, will never countenance any return of armed conflict or terrorism. Therefore, Sri Lanka categorically and unreservedly rejects this draft resolution.
Consent of the country concerned is imperative for tangible results to promote and protect human rights. Pakistan played a key role in the 2009 resolution on Sri Lanka with the consent and cooperation of that country. This resolution achieved positive results. Sri Lanka fully cooperated with the human rights machinery. Interference in the internal affairs of Sri Lanka is unacceptable. No self-respecting country would agree to the intrusive measures advocated in this resolution. In particular, operative paragraph 10 of the resolution is inconsistent with the principles and purposes of the UN Charter, which calls for respecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all states. Mandated activities need to be carried out through the regular budget. Specificity of mandated activity or activities are therefore prerequisite with regard to the budget. Again, something that we have just heard from the Secretariat, and my delegation would like to know from where these funds will come. Because if these funds are to come from countries that have sponsored this resolution, it will obviously be seen as a process that will be tainted. This resolution is also a crass example of hypocrisy and double standards. It selectively targets the government of Sri Lanka but fails to hold to account the LTTE terrorists who indulged in mass murder of innocent people for 30 years. This Council must therefore reject such duplicity. For these reasons, Mr. President, and as a first step, Pakistan calls for a vote for the deletion of operative paragraph 10 of this resolution.
Meanwhile, putting forward a point of order during the debate today, Pakistan pointed out that a sum of $1.4 million had been estimated as the expense that the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights would have to bear to continue monitoring the human rights situation and to undertake a comprehensive investigation into allegations of human rights violations. The Pakistani representative moved a no-action motion on the resolution seeking the postponement of the debate. It was also proposed that the resolution be amended through the striking of Operative Clause 10, which calls for an international investigation into alleged human rights violations in Sri Lanka. Both motions were defeated through a vote. The vote on the resolution was then taken up with 23 nations voting for, 12 voting against and 12 abstentions. Notably, India, which supported the UN HRC resolutions on Sri Lanka in 2012 and 2013, abstained from voting.
Toutes les délégations ont-elles enregistré leur vote? Je demande aux délégations de vérifier.
Could I ask delegations to check if their voting intention has been correctly reflected on the screen? If that is the case, then I would ask the Secretariat to close the registration procedure.
Alors, les résultats du vote enregistrés sont comme suit.
The result of the vote is as follows.
23 pour,
23 votes in favour, 12 votes against, 12 abstentions.
dès lors le projet de résolution L1, Rev
The
1
draft resolution L1, Rev 1 is thereby adopted.
Sri Lanka should be provided all assistance it deserves in a cooperative and collaborative manner. Mr. President, it has been India's firm belief that adopting an intrusive approach that undermines national sovereignty and institutions is counterproductive. Any significant departure from the core principles of constructive international dialogue and cooperation has the potential to undermine efforts of this Council for promoting universal respect for the protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms. Moreover, any external investigative mechanism with an open-ended mandate to monitor national processes for protection of human rights in a country is not reflective of the constructive approach of dialogue and cooperation We are therefore concerned that the resolution has the potential to hinder the efforts of the country rather than contribute constructively to its efforts and hence inadvertently complicate the situation. Mr. President, it is for these reasons that my delegation cannot go along with the resolution and will abstain in the vote on it. Thank you.
Well, speaking exclusively to Newsfirst, US Ambassador to Sri Lanka Michelle Season had this to say.
A sponsored resolution was passed at the UNHRC sessions today. Madam Ambassador, what are your thoughts on that?
What we saw this afternoon in Geneva was the international community coming together, voting yes by a wide margin, to urge the government of Sri Lanka to take action on accountability for the allegations of human rights violations, human rights abuses. The resolution also, of course, has the Office of the High Commissioner undertaking an independent and credible investigation into the violations or abuses allegedly committed by both sides, and I want to make that clear.
As millions of Sri Lankans were watching the session live on Newsfirst today, they saw opposition to the resolution despite it being passed. What have you got to say about this?
Again, I would refer you to the result, which was the resolution being passed by a wide margin in Geneva this afternoon.
Taking into consideration the passing of the resolution today, what is a goal the US is hoping to achieve in the future?
We are partners here in a variety of endeavors from economic development. At the same time, we remain deeply concerned, gravely concerned at the actions that have been taken against some of Sri Lanka's citizens.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Department of State, releasing a press release today, quoted the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry as saying that today's vote in the UN Human Rights Council sends a clear message, and added that time to pursue lasting peace and prosperity has arrived. He said that this resolution reaffirms a commitment of the international community to support the government of Sri Lanka as it pursues reconciliation and respect for human rights and democratic governance. He also added that the U.S. is deeply concerned by the recent actions against some of Sri Lanka's citizens, including detentions and harassment of civil society activists, adding that the Sri Lankan people are demanding democracy and prosperity in years of peace. He also noted in a statement that the Sri Lankan people are resilient as he demonstrated grit and determination through years of war.
Welcome back. You're with News First. The final election rally of the United People's Freedom Alliance ahead of the Western and Southern Provincial Council polls took place last evening in Debreveva.
This election rally was graced by President Mahinda Rajapaksa and was attended by a large number of UPFA candidates contesting the Southern Provincial Council. If they win the vote in Geneva on the 27th, will it be an issue for us? Not at all. However, on the 29th, we need to tell them that we will secure victory in the election on the 29th. They say that we killed and assaulted and destroyed things. They say that we are negligent. They say that we attack temples, mosques and kovils. They are saying that monks are leading marches to attack churches. What is this? They say these outrageous lies and speak of reconciliation, but they have not seen reconciliation. They never spoke of reconciliation when the Sri Mahabodhi was attacked or when the temple of the Sacred Tooth relic was attacked. There was no talk of reconciliation when Kataragama was attacked and when Muslims who were praying at the Katankodi Mosque were shot and killed.
Commissioner of the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission Dr. Pratibha Mahanamaheva elaborated on the future of the draft resolution presented in Geneva at a summit held in Kandy today.
There is nothing that the Human Rights Council can do. The Office of the Human Rights High Commissioner will hand over a report to the Security Council based in New York. This is where the situation becomes serious. The Security Council can impose various sanctions. They can prohibit scholarships and impose economic sanctions in a way that our leaders will not be able to travel to those countries. They will also put a halt to all trade deals. They will blacklist our banks. The Security Council has this power, but it is the end result that is most important. If these countries support us in the Security Council before the end result comes, about then the problem can be solved.
10 persons found guilty of murder were handed down the death penalty by the Kandy High Court today. The sentence was passed down today when the case pertaining to the murder of an individual on the 8th of April 2004 in Rathoda was taken up by the Kandy High Court.
Announcing the verdict, Kandy High Court Judge Manilal Vaidyatilaka said that the charges against the suspects were proven beyond doubt. The Attorney General had filed indictments against 14 suspects over the murder. During the time period of the trial, one suspect died, and the Kandy High Court also ordered that 3 other suspects be released.
A youth from Wattala has been hospitalized after being attacked by a group of persons. The victim says that he was attacked over a land dispute.
This plot of land on Marine Drive in Bambalapitiya, not far from the Bambalapitiya police station, was at the centre of this dispute. The victim of the assault says the land, which belongs to his father and uncle, was entrusted to a broker to put it up for sale. However, he noted that as the broker had not executed his duties appropriately, the family found a buyer themselves. The victim says that the broker, who was angered by this move, had levelled death threats at him and members of his family. He says that the broker, accompanied by other persons, accosted him at this location on the Narahempita Navala road and assaulted him. The youth who was injured during the attack was admitted to the National Hospital in Colombo for treatment.
They followed me. About 6 or 7 of them were travelling in one vehicle and they attacked me. They hit me on the head repeatedly. I fled and lodged a complaint with the police. They have levelled death threats in the open. People have been employed to provide security for our house. These people have been engaged in acts of fraud, corruption and extortion. They had attempted to extort money from my father. I asked the competent authorities to do everything possible to prevent incidents like this. All of the suspects in this attack were arrested by 5:30 last evening. Their statements were recorded and they were released on police bail last night. Submissions will be made regarding this incident in the future at the Magistrates Court in Hulsdorf.
The final election campaign meeting of UPFA Colombo district candidate Hirunika Premachandra was held in the Valpala area in Angoda yesterday.
Several UPFA seniors attended this meeting.
If Hirunika did not contest for this election, the entire list will look out of proportion. Brother Lucky was murdered in broad daylight. We were in deep shock. We do not like working alongside murderers in politics. They must be removed from politics. If we are to pass down this country to the next generation, to the youth of this country, we cannot engage in politics with these murderers. Our men should be removed. My friends, I would like to emphasize that no one can silence Hirunika, who is of the bloodline of Bharata, who raised his voice for the people of this area and stood against the drug trade. At times, those who are not with us to ensure our victory at the 2005 election are the ones who speak of politics today. However, at the last rally he attended in Kotikavatta, Bharata Lakshman Premachandra spoke about this and reminisced on this. The people of the Kolonnavu electorate know better than anyone else that no matter how many attacks were levelled at him, these were all false. We are aware of this. Do not falter. The more attacks they level, the more the number of preferential votes increases. As ministers of this government, we understand the issues pertaining to the economy, issues regarding daily expenses, prices of goods and so on. What you should know though is that no government is capable of achieving a broad economic development after ending a long-standing war. It cannot be done at the same time. There is no government like that in the world. I know for a fact that Hirunika, as a youth, did not hesitate to speak up straight. So it is our responsibility to bring a resounding victory to Hirunika. Bharata is not here with us today. But if he was, how happy the people of Kolonnava would have been to witness this victory. I would like to endorse her on behalf of the President and everyone in our party, the Alliance. I would also like to say that the President and everyone in the Rajapaksa family will fulfill their duty to her.
Hirunika Premachandra received a warm welcome from the public.
When His Excellency the President offered me the Central Colombo electorate, I requested for the Kolanava electorate. He told me that it will be tough for me to do politics within Kolanava, but I still said no, I want the Kolanava electorate. Then he told me just one thing. He told me to obtain the highest number of preferential votes as never been done before in the history of Kolanava, and that Kolanava would be mine the next day. This is what we are all preparing for.
At a musical show following the conclusion of the meeting, the gathering requested Hirunika Pemachandra to perform a song.
Meanwhile, the final election campaign rally of the Democratic Party was held last afternoon.
Candidates of the provincial council elections representing the party and members of the party were present at the rally. We can see the state of the government. There is a gap in the current leadership. My friends, the people of the country have already made a decision that only General Sarath Fonseca can fill this gap. He said that the war will end in 3 years, but the people saw the conclusion of the war in 2 years and 8 months. But today he is saying that the people of the country will be saved after the dispersing of the current government in 3 years. I will assure you that General Sarath Fonseca will achieve this before 2 years and 9 months.
General Sarath Fonseca metutuma itu karna bawata mango bata munna salada sahathika wenawa දැන් මේ රටේ පාලකයා කෑ ගහනවා කීනෙන් බය වෙලා.
The ruler of this country is shouting out of fear in his dreams today. He has two dreams. They say he sees an electric chair. He who planned the war on behalf of the war heroes as those who issued orders and steered this operation. We are prepared to go anywhere in this world. We will not allow our war heroes to be taken to the electric chair. This ruler also has another dream. In that dream he sees Sarath Fonseca. He saw this dream during the last presidential election. It is this ruler that is destroying the political culture of our country.
Gampaha district candidate attorney at law Susara Dinal held his final election campaign rally in Dewlapitia yesterday.
Many villagers from Induragara Dewlapitia participated in the rally. Many artists also participated in the rally to add more colour to the event. Bearing in mind the future of the people and the country, elect a capable politician from your area who will make that come true at the polls this time. Politics is no longer just about doing minor service and slipping away. We need to vote for politicians who possess qualities such as clear vision for the future, dedication, and those who have sound knowledge about politics and who have fostered good practices.
Let's now have a listen to some of the views expressed yesterday on the election stage, which was also the final day for election propaganda rallies.
Ask yourselves, was this war concluded for the need of the government or due to a personal issue between Mahinda Rajapaksa and Prabhakaran? Was this concluded due to the need of the government or for the need of the country? This was a victory that was required by the people. The Elections Commissioner announced the elections for the day after the vote in Geneva. Is he to say no to that? He is shouting, citing an electric chair. When we were taking a basket of flowers to the temple, we invited the opposition also to obtain blessings, but they said that these flowers are useless and they will not get blessings of it. If they also worked together and worked for the war victory, they too will be able to enjoy that glory.
දකුණේ සිංහලයෝ ටික අනුරාධපුර පොළොන්නරුව
The Sinhalese youth in the south and the poor youth from the Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa areas were the ones who went to war. Therefore, who should celebrate the war victory? The parents of those youth. Today, they are filled with sadness.
මේ රටේ අහිංසක දුප්පත් අම්මලා තාත්තලාගේ දරුවෝ දැන් ඒ දරුවෝ දැන් දුක් විඳිනවා.
If they attempt to create an elam in the north and the east, we will have an answer for that. Not 26,000, but we will be prepared to sacrifice 100,000 to ensure the protection of this country. You cannot stay home just because it is raining or because it is too hot. If we are to send a message to Geneva, to the Americans and those who are in greed of dollars, we need to work properly. That needs to be done on the 30th. The police is given a fuel allowance that will only allow them to operate 150 kilometers per month. When you go around the police twice, that fuel will be over. If a burglar breaks into the house and when you inform the police, they will ask if it is possible for us to catch the robber and bring him to the police in a three-wheeler. A majority of the police officers go to work in the bicycle.
The People's Action for Free and Fair Elections, or PAFREL, called for an amendment in election laws today.
Expenses incurred for election propaganda was one of the notable features during this election. In future, when amending election laws, propaganda expenses will be our main focus. It is also a question whether the candidates are aware of the money they spend. But how is all of this money recovered? There doesn't seem to be a proper mechanism in place for this. So public representatives will have to recover the money through an ad hoc manner. So if we are to change this current situation and prevent underhand activities taking place during the elections, it is essential that the election laws be changed, and also conducting elections under a trustee government is also a pressing issue.
A police sergeant attached to the traffic division of the Maharagama police, who was arrested in connection with an incident where he is alleged to have reprimanded and threatened Colombo Fort Magistrate Thilina Gamage, has been remanded until the 2nd of April. The sergeant was produced before the Nugegoda Magistrates Court today.
The sergeant attached to the traffic division of the Maharagama police was arrested following a complaint that was lodged with the Inspector General of Police. The complaint notes that the officer had stopped the vehicle of Fort Magistrate Thilina Gamage on the Maharagama Pamanua road and had proceeded to abuse him with profanity. The suspect was produced before Nugegoda Additional Magistrate Aruni Artigala today and was subsequently remanded until the 2nd of April. The Bar Association of Sri Lanka, the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court Lawyers Association, the presidents of the Fort Magistrates Court Lawyers Association and the Gangodawila Lawyers Association appeared for the plaintiff magistrate. If a judge cannot travel on the road, in this situation we have grave doubts as to what redress the people can seek from the courts. All lawyers condemn this action. This problem arose because the officer in question had intervened to prevent a vehicle from driving on the wrong side of the road while on duty. The report put forward by the police notes that since investigations have concluded, he should be released on suitable bail conditions. In such a situation, an ordinary person would definitely have been released on bail. I cannot think why this police officer has been deprived of this legal right at this instance.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka notes that the 2011 annual report of the Employees Provident Fund will be presented to Parliament in the near future. Major criticisms had been levelled in the recent past over the failure to present the annual reports of the EPF to Parliament since 2011. Now, issuing a communique, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka noted that the 2011 annual report of the EPF has been presented to Cabinet and that the Minister of Labour would present the report to Parliament in the near future. The Central Bank notes that although the financial status of the EPF in 2011 was made public through a newspaper notice published on the 10th of March 2011, certain parliamentarians are levelling allegations that the reports are not being presented.
මොවුන්ගේ මාධ්‍ය නිවේදනයේ කියනවා මේ පත්තරවල පළ කරාලු ඔවුන්ගේ ගිණු.
Their media release reads that the accounts were published in the newspapers. The law does not ask them to publish it in newspapers. The law asks that an audit be conducted and that it be presented to Parliament. We have not attempted to lead anyone astray in any fashion. The report for 2011 has not been presented as of the 27th of March 2014. That is 2 years and 3 months later. We have not attempted to lead anyone astray.
ඉදිරිපත් කරලා නැහැ. අපි කිසිම විදියකට කිසිම කෙනෙක්ව
Religious observances were held in Kandy today in commemoration of the 4th month death anniversary of late R.I.T. Alice. The religious observances were organized by the staff of Gateway College, Kandy.
Religious observances were held in remembrance of R.I.T. Alice at the Muthamari Amman Kovil in Kandy. The observances, which were held this morning, were participated by Harsha Alice and his spouse, staff and students of Gateway College, Kandy. Meanwhile, Muslim religious observances to 4 months since the death of the late R.I.T. Alice was held within the premises of Gateway College, Kandy. Religious observances were also conducted at the Sacred Heart Church in Katugastota this morning. Meanwhile, a religious sermon is to be held at Gateway College, Kandy later on in the evening.
The Colombo District Court fixed a date for the trial filed by the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited against Kiangnam Lanka Private Limited and Kiangnam Enterprises Limited to the 23rd of July 2014. The Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited instituted an action in the District Court in Colombo against Kiangnam Lanka Private Limited and Kiangnam Enterprises Limited seeking damages for a sum of $40 million caused to the plaintiff, the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited, due to a breach of contract and also for ill order preventing the Kiangnam Lanka Private Limited from selling, transferring, assigning the land and premises at Central Colombo belong to the plaintiff company.
When the above case came up on 6 September 2013 before Pradeep Hettiarachchi, the District Judge of Colombo, President's Counsel S.A. Parthalingam, representing the plaintiff, making submissions, stated that the plaintiff company entered into an agreement with the two defendants, Kiangnam Lanka Private Limited and Kiangnam Enterprises Limited, to construct a luxury apartment complex called the Dawson Grand on the land that belonged to the plaintiff company. The agreement was entered into in the year 2006 and the construction of the Dawson Grand was to be completed within a period of 5 years thereafter. The defendants, in breach of the said agreement, did not fulfill or comply with the conditions laid down in the said agreement and caused loss and damages to the plaintiff due to the defendants' violation of the said agreement. President's Counsel Parthalingam also brought to the notice of court that as far back from 17th September 2012, the defendants have sent letters to the plaintiff stating that they have no funds to proceed with the project, and he further brought to the attention of court the photographs annexed to the plaint to prove that the Dawson Grand project has now been totally abandoned. Having heard the submission made by President's Counsel S.A. Parthalingam and having read the petition, affidavit and annexures thereto, court being satisfied a prima facie case has been established, issued notice of interim injunction to the first defendant, Kiangnam Lanka Private Limited, and also issued summons on both defendants, returnable on 20th of September 2013. On the 20th of September 2013, counsel appeared on behalf of the defendants and moved for a date to file answer and objections, and also tendered a motion objecting to the jurisdictions of this court in view of an arbitration clause contained in the agreement between the plaintiff and the defendants. President's Counsel S.A. Parthalingam, who appeared for the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited, objected to the said motion and said that the procedure was wrong. Thereafter, counsel appearing for the defendants did not pursue with the motion. Court directed Kiangnam Lanka Private Limited and Kiangnam Enterprises Limited, who are the defendants in this case, to file their objections and answer on the 29th of October 2013. When the above case came up on the 29th of October 2013, counsel appearing for Kiangnam Lanka Private Limited moved for a further extended date to file answer and objections. Court granted time until the 23rd of January 2014 to file the same. When the above case came up on the 23rd of January 2014, counsel for Kiangnam Lanka once again moved for a further extended date to file answer and objections. President's Counsel S.A. Parthalingam, who appeared for the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited, informed court that 23rd January 2014 is the third day for answer and objections, and therefore made an application to court to grant a final date to file answer and objections. And having heard the submissions made by the counsel for both parties, court granted time finally till yesterday to file the answer and objections of Kiangnam Lanka Private Limited and Kiangnam Enterprises Limited. When the above case came up on the 26th of March 2014, that is yesterday, before District Judge of Colombo, Mrs. Sujata Alahap Peruma, counsel for Kiangnam Lanka Private Limited and Kiangnam Enterprises Limited tendered the answer and objections to court. Court accepted the same and fixed the case for the trial for the 23rd of July 2014. S.A. Parthalingam President's Counsel with Nishkan Parthalingam Attorney at Law, instructed by G.G. Arul Pragasam Attorney at Law, appeared for the plaintiff, the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited, while Attorney at Law N. Sivendran, instructed by Neelakandan and Neelakandan Attorneys at Law, appeared for the defendants, Kiangnam Lanka Private Limited and Kiangnam Enterprises Limited.
Now on to international news, a Thai satellite has detected some 300 objects in an area of the southern Indian Ocean being searched for missing Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. The image was taken by the Thai short satellite on the 24th of March, a day after images from a French satellite purported to show 122 floating objects. An air search for missing Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 has again been suspended because of bad weather in the southern Indian Ocean. Australian officials said that 8 planes reached the zone but faced zero visibility and returned to base after Malaysian officials revealed fresh satellite images showing a possible debris field yesterday. Now with that, we move on to cricket news, where Sri Lanka put on a challenging total of 189 runs in their World T20 encounter against England today. The Mahela Jayawardena's top scored for Sri Lanka with 89 runs. Tilakratna Dilshan made 55. Mahela and Dilshan put on a 145-run partnership for the second wicket after Kusal Janit Pereira was dismissed cheaply for 3 runs.
All the way, and that will rub salt in. Oh, that's a great slap from Dilshan. Into the crowds it goes. He hasn't hit a 6 yet. Dilshan have had a little bit of luck, but you get that. What a hit that is. Brilliantly struck by Andre and 1-6. A charge as well.
Veteran batsman Sangakkara failed to contribute. Tisel Pereira and Angela Matthews took Sri Lanka over the 180-run mark. Jade Dernbach and Chris Jordan picked up 2 wickets each for England.
Beauty. Full straight. Mahela Jayawardena play from Chris Jordan. Mahela goes for a slower ball. Goes leg side. Should be taken. Is taken. Overs. Up in the air. First ball. Sangakkara's gone. Batsman crocking for his bag and he's off.
Needing a total of 190 runs for victory a short while ago, England were 45 for the loss of 2 wickets.
Flick to the 6, the field like favourites.
The BCCI has assured that N. Srinivasan will step down for the post of president.
On Tuesday, the court had said that N. Srinivasan should step down as BCCI president to ensure a fair inquiry into the IPL betting and match-fixing scandal and had given the board 2 days to respond. In court, the BCCI offered that Srinivasan could step aside while a time-bound inquiry was conducted in the case. It also appealed that Srinivasan be allowed to take over as the International Cricket Council's first chairman of the executive committee come July. Harish Salve, who is representing petitioners, sought a criminal investigation into spot fixing allegations and petitioned that the Chennai Super Kings team should be terminated. The Supreme Court of India has said it will pass an order on the Indian Premier League spot fixing and betting scandal tomorrow and has proposed that former India captain Sunil Gavaskar could take over as the interim chief of the Board of Control for Cricket in India in place of its embattled president N. Srinivasan. The court also suggested that Indian Premier League teams Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals should not be part of the 7th season beginning in the United Emirates on the 16th of April as they are being investigated in the case. Both teams are former champions, with Chennai winning the IPL twice. The Supreme Court bench has also proposed that no one associated with Srinivasan's company, India Cements, should be part of the BCCI. India Cements owns CSK and it also employs Indian skipper Mahendra Singh Dhoni and Sundar Raman, the man who runs the IPL. Srinivasan is a managing director of Indian Cements.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka.
And I'm Shahan Jurangpati. Good night and take care.
Hotline 0114-896-896. www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.